The O'Reilly Factor is on tonight.
Let me say that we need your help, number one, to hold us accountable.
But Bernie Goldberg says Hillary Clinton has never been held accountable for anything. We'll talk about it tonight.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Probably shouldn't have attacked another person. I regret doing that.
Dennis Miller on NFL players shooting their mouths off.
Philly, I'm here.
That should be interesting.
Well, we're counter-surveilling the guy, you know what I mean? He's hiding here, I'm hiding here, Oh, we don't...
And can you believe it? The mayor of Toronto, a loon, has higher approval ratings than President Obama.
How much money that cost?
Caution, you are about to enter the no spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Why many Americans cannot make much money. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. A centerpiece of the Democratic Party strategy is to convince Americans that the federal government can get you more money. And in some cases, that's true. New data from the Department of Agriculture says 20% of all American homes are now receiving food stamps, a record. And plenty of those folks need help because incomes in America are dropping. Since President Obama took office in 2009, the median income has fallen 7% in the USA. It now stands at $52,000, down from $56,000 just a few years back. There are many reasons this is happening, but competition is the main one. The USA has signed trade deals with China that have moved many jobs out of this country to China, where wages are very low. Also, China puts high tariffs on our products, making our stuff too expensive for many Chinese people to buy. So American workers are getting hosed by that trade policy with China. On another front, Obamacare is making health insurance more expensive for many American workers. Thus, take-home pay drops. Also, taxes in general going up, especially fees. There are fees for everything, tolls, that kind of stuff. They are draining our wallets. In response to the pressure on income, Democrats promise entitlements. But of course, we the people must pay for them. I want every American to have good food, and I'm willing to pay my fair share to make that happen. But I make a lot of money. Most Americans do not. Yet they are also taxed to the hilt. So let's recap. Economic deals with foreign countries hurting American workers. The new national health care law draining money from the folks. And high taxation gutting take-home pay. That's why there is income inequality. Now, the solution to the problem is simple: more well-paying jobs. But the feds can't create those jobs. That must be done by the private sector. And private business must have incentives to hire. Obamacare discourages hiring in many places. And the high corporate tax rate in America means more money is kept overseas where it isn't taxed by huge companies. It's not being invested here. Investment means jobs. The nanny state economy, driven by far-left social justice people, wreaking havoc in the working class precincts. That's the truth. But the truth is complicated. And with people spending so much of their time surfing the net, texting, watching garbage TV, many don't understand economics. Thus, the false promise of income equality is seducing some voters. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction to the Democratic strategy of income inequality. And the former governor of Virginia, as well as his wife, charged with corruption. Joining us now from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Carl Cameron, and from Washington, James Rosen. Both are Fox News correspondents. All right, Rosen, we'll begin with you. What's new in the Democratic income equality world?
Well, Bill, your sketch just now of why income inequality exists didn't really take us to the fundamental point, which is that it exists as a function of the genius of the American enterprise. No sane American would want to live in a society where everyone has an identical income or the same height or face. That's not the United States of America. That would be the Twilight Zone. But in terms of the President of the United States making this a key push in the 6th year of his term for a midterm election cycle, Mr. Obama, it seems to me, assumes a certain risk that this portrait of the American economy won't be construed as a kind of self-indictment, and here's why. The greatest gains by the top 1% in this country, the greatest acceleration in their gains, occurred under President Obama's first term when he got that $830 billion stimulus package he asked for. Let me just give you one statistic. According to researchers at UC Berkeley, as liberal an academic institution as there is, between 2009 and 2012, the top 1% in this country captured 95% of the income gains that we saw in the first 3 years of the so-called recovery. You compare that with the economic expansion of the Clinton era, the 1990s. Back then, the top 1% captured only 45% of the income gains. And during the post-2001 expansion of the Bush-Cheney first term, the top 1% captured only 65% of the income gains we saw.
Does UC Berkeley say why the fat cats are getting all the money?
Look, this is structural. The president hasn't helped, and his stimulus package clearly didn't help. But this has to do with long-term economic, demographic, and cultural changes in this country, and you did allude to some of those things.
Yeah,
the dumbing down
let me
of
just stop
America.
you there. Some academics say because of the explosion of high tech, if you have a profitable brand, you now reach people 1,000 times faster than you used to, because of the internet and the lightning fast society in we live. And therefore, the people who are established with good products and brands, boom, their income explodes. Whereas the working people don't have that advantage. Go. Wrap it up, and I got to get to Cameron.
Ultimately, this comes down to education and whether or not our education system is producing students who are equipped for the new jobs of the 21st
That's right. They
century.
got to have skills. They got to have high-tech skills.
You got it.
All right, Rosen, thank you. Now, Cameron, you're out in Iowa. Why are you out there?
Republicans and Democrats are in the process of picking their party officials for the 2014 and 2016 campaigns, including a process that gets them to their ultimate nominees. And there's an interesting battle on the Republican side where the party had been essentially taken over by a bunch of Ron Paul's former supporters, and they'd pretty much managed to take all of the important offices in the Central Committee for the state of Iowa's Republican Party. The mainstream is trying to push back against that and get things a little bit more steady for the 14 and 16 races.
It's inside political stuff in Iowa. All right. Former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. Very serious charges leveled against him and his wife. They could both go to prison. Yeah. Tell us about what the government, the federal government, says they did.
The Department of Justice has put forth 14 indictments against the former governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell, and his wife. They face a potential 20 years in prison each.
Wow.
If they were convicted on all of these charges. This is a lengthy investigation that's been underway for some time, and it essentially revolves around allegations that Mr. McDonnell took a whole sort of gifts, money, jewelry, clothing, trips, and benefits from a longtime friend of his, Johnny Williams, who owned a company. In exchange, the allegation in the indictment asserts, for favors to promote that company, perhaps give it opportunities for research at the University of Virginia and its products, and thus a quid pro quo, government corruption. There are further allegations that when Mr. McDonnell was first confronted with this, he said that it wasn't so, but then began to give some of these gifts back and in some cases call them loans. And there are allegations that both he and his wife interfered, obstructed, or did things to impede the investigation of the federal government into this. It's very, very serious. Mr. McDonnell has denied all the charges publicly on a number of occasions. His legal team has asked for a delay in what is to be the arraignment and bond hearing this Friday in Richmond, where the district federal court is. At this point, the Justice Department said they wouldn't object to that because one of Mr. McDonnell's attorneys is out of town. It hasn't been delayed formally at this point, but as soon as Friday, it is quite possible that the former governor of Virginia and his wife will walk into a federal court to be formally indicted and charged and arraigned on these 14 accusations of corruption.
That's stunning. Real quick, though, part of the case is the feds are alleging that the McDonald's had a lot of credit card debt, and they had it. Do you know anything about that, or is that just specious?
Essentially what they're arguing was, if this was on the up and up, why did so much of the money, some of these gifts, go through family members and not be documented in the regular way in which such things would be disclosed under the federal record? The other thing to point out here is Bob McDonnell is denying this very aggressively. He's a lawyer. He's the state's former attorney general. He knows the laws as well and says that he hasn't broken them, that perhaps the laws need to be rewritten.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much. Next on